the action potential is going to move down an axon. You're going to have one section that is depolarized. While that section is repolarizing, the next section is depolarized. Now, these are going to be at those nodes, okay, in between the myelin sheath. And so, as sections are going to be repolarizing, the sodium channels are close to prevent depolarization. So this is going to force the signal to move down the axon to the terminal, axon terminal, and the synapse. So once at the synapse, what happens? Well, once again, we have another signaling mechanism, which is going to cause exocytosis of a neurotransmitter. So the electrical signal is going to trigger the release of calcium ions. And these calcium ions, their job is to trigger the release of neurotransmitters by exocytosis. So this is a cellular signaling mechanism where calcium ions are the second messenger, and their job is to trigger those neurotransmitters to be released. So what happens is your electrical signal is now going to be converted into a chemical signal to be passed to another neuron in that synaptic cleft. So the neurotransmitter diffuses, it binds to ion channels, and those ion channels open to allow the transmitters to the next neuron in the synaptic cleft. Okay, so the signal is passed from one to the other, and it keeps going. And this happens super fast. But neurons aren't the only part of that nervous system. There are glial cells, and glial cells' job are to help the neurons. And we do find these in the vertebrate brain and spinal cord. They are accessory cells whose job it is to help the functioning of the central nervous system. And some may actually help myelate the others, and there will be others whose job it is to protect against pathogens. So glial cells play a very important role, even though they are not necessarily neurons themselves. Their job is to support those neurons and make sure they're functioning properly. So one of the main components of the centralized nervous system is the vertebrate brain. And the vertebrate brain is a highly specialized regions for specific functions. And one thing I do want you to realize, and I do want you to notice, is all the folds. The folds in the brain. What do folds do? We've seen them in mitochondria. We see them in alveoli. We see them in the intestines. We see them in the microvilli of the intestines for absorption. Folds, folds, folds. Everywhere in life we see folds. And the whole point of it is to increase surface area. We have sensory receptors that are going to pull information, visual information, chemical information, sound waves, mechanical pressure. All this sensory information is going to be processed in the vertebrate brain, and we make decisions based upon that sensory information without even realizing it through these action potentials.
One of the other concepts that we see throughout the animal kingdom in terms of their physiological structures is we see a high surface area to transport rate. This allows for increased surface area. So we can move a lot of substances into and out of either our organ systems or even our cells. So we see it on the cellular level with mitochondria and microvilli, and we see it on the organ level with our intestines. We see it with the alveoli of our lungs, and of course our circulatory system with our various blood vessels. So no matter what the structure is and what it does, we have to consistently transport substances into and out of them by using increased surface area. So we see this commonly throughout the animal kingdom and their physiologies.
So one thing the vertebrate brain is, not only does it have all these folds to help increase the surface area to maintain these connections with various neurons, and the sections of the brain aren't isolated. They do connect with each other. You do have multiple parts of your brain working at any one time. And the neurons are very malleable in a way. Neuroplasticity is there. Neurons can form new connections with other neurons. And different regions of your cerebral cortex, they allow for not only voluntary movement, but they also allow for your cognitive functions. This is very unique in the vertebrate brain. We make decisions based upon the information that our brain is receiving. So let's talk about the peripheral nervous system. One thing that we do have is reflex arcs. These are a response to certain stimuli that's automatic. It's an automatic response. We do it without even thinking about it. It's like removing your hand when you touch something hot. Reflex arcs are simple neurons. They go to the spinal cord and sent back with a response to these certain stimuli. Motor neurons are involved in these reflex arcs, and you don't even think about it. The signal does not go all the way to your brain for those. So that's going to become part of your peripheral nervous system. Okay. You have in the peripheral nervous system, these are your nerves coming off of your spinal cord. And we consider these efferent neurons because they're moving away or going away from. And most nerves do contain both afferent and efferent neurons. But we're just going to look at the efferent. Some of the efferents are going to be part of that autonomic nervous system. Some of them are going to be part of your motor system. Now, your motor system is what you voluntarily use to control your skeletal muscles. Your autonomic nervous system, those efferent nerves, they're the ones who are going to be in that sympathetic, parasympathetic, and enteric nervous system or division. So the enteric division, their jobs are going to be in the digestive tract, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. Their job is to digest and keep your digestive system going properly. That's your enteric division of the autonomic nervous system. You don't have to even think about it. The sympathetic division is responsible for your fight or flight response. And this is what's going to basically, your heart beats faster. We're going to stop. We're going to slow our digestive. And we're either going to fight or run away, or we're going to get away. So we're either going to fight or flight. The parasympathetic division is going to be your calming and self-maintenance functions, what we know call rest and digest. Okay, when organisms feel safe, they're not going to be in that fight or flight stance. That is going to be your parasympathetic division involved. So nervous systems gather a whole bunch of information about your outside world. The autonomic, we don't even think about it. Our brain takes care of it. Motor system, we take care of it. Our brains have different sections. We are sensitive to times of day. We're sensitive. We have a cycle. And this is all information that our brain gets to help us be alive. All right, that's all I have for nervous systems and animal diversity.
Wow, that was a lot of information that you learned. in diversity of animals. Not only did we look at different animal structures and functions, we also learned about their physiological processes, what were different, what they had in common. We also looked at things like thermoregulation and regulation of various substances. We looked at their endocrine system and how that ties back into certain cellular processes like cell communication. And we looked at their nervous systems and how those neurons are able to transport signals. So take a minute, take a break. I'll see you back with immunity of animals.